The hotel lobby shimmered like liquid gold, all marble and crystal and the kind of silence that only money could buy. Kang Min-jae stepped through those revolving doors with the kind of confidence that made people step aside before he even looked their way. His black coat fit like it was stitched onto him, sharp enough to cut. Next to him, Seo Yura glided with that practiced elegance. Bouquet in hand, smile perfectly placed, not a hair out of line. Cameras flashed somewhere in the background, because that's what happened when power walked into a room. But then he stopped, just froze. And in that exact moment, the entire world narrowed down to one woman standing a few feet away, hands resting protectively over the curve of her belly, wearing a cream dress that caught the warm light like a prayer. She wasn't looking away. She wasn't hiding. She was facing him head-on, steady, unflinching. And Kang Min-jae, the man who never hesitated, who never flinched, whose hand had signed death warrants without a tremor, felt his fingers shake. Amara Cole. The name hit him like a blade between the ribs. Sharp, silent, lethal. He could feel his breath catch. Just for a second, just barely, but enough. Enough for Yura to notice. Her grip on that bouquet tightened, just a fraction, but Min-jae caught it. He caught everything. That's how you stayed alive in his world. Time slowed down the way it does right before a car crash. He saw Amara's face the way it used to be, laughing in the rain, teasing him about his seriousness, kissing him like the world wasn't watching. Then he saw her now, different, older, guarded, beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. And then then he saw it. The pregnancy, the unmistakable swell of life beneath her hands. His hand trembled, actually trembled. Kang Min-jae, who had stared down rival bosses, who had walked through gunfire without blinking, whose face was carved from stone and ice. His hand was shaking. Yura's smile tightened at the edges. She followed his gaze like a hawk tracking prey, and when her eyes landed on Amara, something flickered behind that perfect composure. Jealousy? No, calculation. Yura didn't do jealousy. She did strategy. And right now, she was calculating exactly how dangerous this moment was. The air between them felt thick, electric, like the moment before lightning strikes. Amara turned, slow and deliberate, as if to leave. Min-jae moved without thinking. One step, two, just enough to block her path. Not rough, not gentle, just there. Move, Amara said quietly. Her voice was steady, controlled, cold as winter steel. She didn't look at Yura, didn't acknowledge the cameras or the crowd or the fact that she was standing in the middle of a war zone disguised as a luxury hotel. Min-jae wanted to ask the question that was tearing through him like wildfire. Is it mine? But the boss didn't ask questions in public. The boss didn't beg. The boss didn't show weakness. So instead, he just stood there, searching her eyes for answers she wasn't willing to give, and finding nothing, absolutely nothing. The silence stretched out like a knife blade. People were starting to notice. Whispers rippled through the lobby like a slow poison. Min-jae could feel the weight of eyes on him, the kind of attention that could destroy empires if you weren't careful. Yura stepped closer, her perfume cutting through the tension. Min-jae, she said softly, her voice like honey laced with arsenic. We're late. He didn't move, couldn't move. His entire body felt locked in place, like someone had hit pause on his life. Because this wasn't just any woman. This was her. The one who disappeared. The one he looked for in every crowded room for months. The one he told himself he'd forgotten. Amara's jaw tightened. Last chance, she said, her voice dropping even lower. Move. Security noticed the standoff. Two men in dark suits started moving toward them, smooth and efficient, the way trained professionals move when they sense trouble. Min-jae's own guards tensed, hands moving instinctively toward concealed weapons. But before anyone could escalate, Amara did something that broke the moment completely. She smiled, just a small, sad curve of her lips. And then she said, so quietly that only he could hear it, "You made your choice 3 years ago, Min-jae. Don't pretend you get to make another one now." And then she walked around him, just like that, smooth, controlled like she'd rehearsed it. Her dress whispered against the marble floor. Her heels clicked in perfect rhythm. She didn't look back. Not once. Min-jae watched her go, every muscle in his body screaming at him to follow, to grab her arm, to demand answers, to Min-jae. Yura's hand landed on his arm, her nails digging in just slightly. People are watching. He blinked, forced himself back into his body, back into the mask he wore so well. His face smoothed out, his shoulders relaxed. The tremor in his hand disappeared like it had never existed. When he turned to Yura, his expression was perfectly neutral. "Let's go," he said, his voice flat. But as they walked toward the elevator, as the cameras flashed and the crowd parted and everything returned to that polished, perfect surface, Min-jae's mind was somewhere else entirely, because he'd seen the way Amara touched her belly, the protective curve of her palm, the defensive set of her shoulders, and he knew, with the kind of certainty that lives in your bones, that this wasn't coincidence. Someone had planned this meeting. Someone wanted him to see her. Someone was playing a game, and he was about to find out who. The elevator doors closed with a soft ding. Yura stood beside him, silent, her eyes fixed on the digital numbers climbing higher. But Min-jae could feel the questions radiating off her like heat. She wanted to ask. She was dying to ask. She didn't. Not yet. Because Yura was smart enough to know that timing was everything. When they reached the penthouse suite, she finally spoke. Who was she? Min-jae walked to the window, hands in his pockets, staring out at the city that sprawled beneath him like a kingdom. His kingdom, built on blood and silence and choices that haunted him in the dark. No one, he said. Yura laughed. It was a soft, dangerous sound. Don't insult me, Min-jae. I saw your face. He didn't turn around. It doesn't concern you. Everything that concerns you concerns me. She moved closer, her reflection appearing in the glass beside his. We're engaged, remember? Politically, he said flatly. Not emotionally. Her smile didn't falter, but something flickered in her eyes. Something cold. Careful, darling. You're starting to sound like you have a heart. Min-jae finally turned to face her. Drop it, Yura. She studied him for a long moment, her gaze sharp and calculating. Then she smiled, sweet as poison. Of course, whatever you say. But as she turned away, already pulling out her phone, Min-jae knew exactly what she was doing. Yura didn't let things go. She investigated. She calculated. She eliminated threats. And Amara Cole had just become threat number one. If you're feeling what I'm feeling right now, that electric tension, that need to know what happens next, then do me a favor. Drop a comment and tell me, Team Amara or Team Yura. Because trust me, this war is just beginning. And honestly, I need to know if you're ready for where this story is about to go. Alright, let's keep moving. 4 years ago, Kang Min-jae wasn't the boss yet. He was close, so close he could taste it, but he was still climbing. Still proving himself. Still covered in the blood of men who'd underestimated him. He met Amara Cole in New York, in a city that moved too fast to notice the shadows. She was standing in the rain outside a jazz club, laughing at something on her phone, completely unbothered by the water soaking through her coat. Most people would have run for cover. She just stood there, like she owned the storm. He walked past her, tried to, anyway, but she looked up, and their eyes met, and something he couldn't name and didn't want to, made him stop. You look like you're about to kill someone, she said, smiling. He blinked. No one talked to him like that. No one joked about death when they were looking at a man who dealt in it daily. Maybe I just did, he said, testing her. She laughed. Actually laughed. Then you should probably get out of the rain. Blood washes away too easily in weather like this. And just like that, he was hooked. They started meeting. Secretly at first, because everything in his world was secret. Coffee shops where no one knew his name. Late-night walks where the darkness hid them both. She asked questions that no one else dared to ask. She challenged him. She didn't flinch when he told her what he really did. didn't run when he showed her the scars. "You're not as scary as you think you are," she told him once, tracing the line of a scar on his shoulder. "I'm terrifying," he said, half joking. "To everyone else, maybe." She kissed the scar. "Not to me." That should have been his warning. That should have told him how deep he was getting. But Min-jae had never been good at reading his own emotions. He was too busy reading everyone else's, looking for weaknesses, planning 10 steps ahead. He promised her protection. He promised her honesty. He promised her a future where they wouldn't have to hide. And he meant it. At the time, he meant every word. But he was also lying. Not directly, never directly, just by omission, by silence, by not telling her about the enemies closing in, the deals going bad, the blood debts coming due. He told himself he was protecting her. That ignorance was safety. He was wrong. Amara found out the truth the way everyone eventually finds out the truth, by accident. She overheard a conversation she wasn't supposed to hear. 2 of his men discussing contingency plans. Discussing what would happen if the woman became a liability. Discussing how easy it would be to make someone disappear. She didn't confront him immediately. Amara was too smart for that. Instead, she watched, waited, listened, and slowly, piece by piece, she put together the truth he'd been hiding. Min-jae was dangerous. His world was deadly. And anyone who loved him was a target. When she realized she was pregnant, everything crystallized. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about a child who would be born into a war zone. A child who would be used as leverage, as bait, as a weapon. A child who would never be safe. She waited for Min-jae to tell her the truth. Gave him chances. Asked leading questions. Created openings for honesty. He never took them. So one morning, while he was out handling business that she now understood was probably murder, Amara Cole packed a single bag. She left no note. No explanation. No dramatic goodbye. She just disappeared. Chose survival over love. Chose her unborn child over the man she still cared about. It was the hardest thing she'd ever done. And the loneliest. And the bravest. Now, sitting in a hotel room across the city from the lobby where she just confronted her past, Amara rested her hand on her belly. The baby kicked, strong and insistent, reminding her why she'd made the choice she made. "You'll never be part of his world," she whispered. "I promise you that." But even as she said it, she knew the truth. Min-jae had seen her. Min-jae had seen the pregnancy. And Min-jae never let go of things that belonged to him. The war had just begun. Seo Yura didn't get angry. Anger was messy, uncontrolled, beneath her. Instead, she got strategic. The moment they'd returned to the penthouse, the moment Min-jae had dismissed her questions, she'd known exactly what to do. She pulled out her phone, typed a single message to her private investigator. A man who specialized in digging up dirt that people desperately wanted to stay buried. Asterisk, find everything on a woman named Amara Cole. Pregnant, black, mid-20s, at the Platinum Grand Hotel tonight. I want her life story by morning. Asterisk. She hit send and set the phone down with a soft click. Then she poured herself a glass of wine, settled into the leather chair by the window, and smiled. People underestimated Yura all the time. They saw the elegant dresses, the perfect posture, the serene smile, and they assumed she was decorative. A trophy. A beautiful accessory to hang on Min-jae's arm. They were idiots. Yura had grown up in this world. Her father had been a minor player in the organization, ambitious but lacking vision. She'd watched him climb and fall and climb again, always one step away from real power. She'd learned early that beauty was currency, intelligence was armor, and ruthlessness was survival. When her father arranged the engagement to Min-jae, she'd accepted without hesitation. Not because she loved him, love was for people who could afford it, but because he was the throne, the real throne, the kind of power that didn't fade or crumble or disappear overnight. She didn't need Min-jae to love her. She needed him to marry her, to give her the title, the legitimacy, the unshakable position at the center of everything. And she'd been so close, The wedding was planned. The alliances were secured. The future was locked in place. Until tonight. Until that woman appeared like a ghost from Min Jae's past, pregnant and defiant and absolutely, catastrophically dangerous. By 6 a.m., her phone buzzed. The investigator worked fast. That's why she paid him obscene amounts of money. She opened the file, scanning through pages of information. Birth records, employment history, known associates, financial transactions, travel patterns. And there it was, the timeline. Amara Cole had disappeared from New York 3 years ago, right around the time Min Jae had been consolidating power after his mentor's death. She'd resurfaced 6 months ago in a small town upstate, keeping a low profile, working remotely, avoiding cameras. She was 7 months pregnant. Yura did the math. The timing lined up perfectly. If Amara had gotten pregnant right before disappearing, the child would be due in about 2 months, which meant the child was Min Jae's. Yura set the phone down very carefully. For a moment, just a moment, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of what this meant. An heir, a biological heir, a child with Min Jae's blood running through its veins. In their world, bloodlines mattered. Legacy mattered. Sons, especially firstborn sons, mattered more than anything. More than alliances. More than love. More than her. If Min Jae confirmed that child was his, everything would shift. The engagement would become negotiable. The wedding would be postponed, maybe cancelled. Amara would go from ghost to threat to queen in a matter of weeks. Yura couldn't allow that. She picked up her phone again, opened a different contact. This one had no name, just a number. She typed carefully, choosing her words with precision. Asterisk problem needs to be handled discreetly. Pregnant woman. Target is the pregnancy, not the woman. Make it look natural. I'll send details. Asterisk. She hit send and leaned back, sipping her wine. The smile returned to her face, serene and perfect. A miscarriage was tragic, of course. Heartbreaking, but also natural. It happened all the time, especially to women under stress. And Amara Cole, appearing out of nowhere, confronting the father of her child in a public hotel, clearly living on the run, was under a lot of stress. No one would question it. No one would investigate. And most importantly, no one would be able to trace it back to her. Yura finished her wine and set the glass down with a soft clink. Then she walked to the bedroom, where Min Jae was already awake, staring at his phone with the kind of intensity that meant he was planning something. Couldn't sleep? She asked, her voice gentle. He didn't look up. I have work to do. At 6 in the morning? Yes. She walked over, sat on the edge of the bed, placed a perfectly manicured hand on his shoulder. Min Jae, whatever you're planning, be careful. That woman, whoever she is, she's clearly not stable. Showing up like that, making a scene. She didn't make a scene, he said quietly. She confronted you in a public place. She walked away. Yura's smile tightened just a fraction. Still, be careful. People like that, they're unpredictable. Min Jae finally looked at her. Really looked at her. His eyes were cold, calculating, searching for something beneath her concern. What do you know about her? Nothing, Yura said smoothly. That's why I'm worried. He held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded, turned back to his phone. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it. Of course you will, Yura said sweetly. She leaned in, kissed his cheek. That's why I love you. Lies, all of it. But lies delivered with perfect conviction. She left the room, her smile never wavering. But inside, behind the mask, Yura was already 3 steps ahead. Already planning. Already ensuring that Amara Cole's pregnancy would end before it became a problem. And she would do it all with a smile. Min Jae didn't sleep. He made calls instead. Quiet calls. The kind that happened in the language of code and implication, where nothing was ever said directly but everything was understood perfectly. By noon, he had Amara's location. A modest hotel on the east side, the kind that didn't ask questions and didn't have cameras in the hallways. Smart. She was being careful. He went alone. No guards. No backup. This wasn't about power or intimidation. This was about answers. He knocked on her door. 3 times. Firm but not aggressive. Silence. Then footsteps. Then the sound of a chain sliding across metal. Amara opened the door just enough to see him. Her expression didn't change. "How did you find me?" "I always find what I'm looking for," he said. "Then you should have found me 3 years ago." She started to close the door. Min-jae put his hand against it, not pushing, just holding it in place. "I looked," he said quietly. "You were good at disappearing. I had to be." "Why?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You really don't know? Tell me." Amara stared at him for a long moment. Then she opened the door fully, stepped back. "Come in. But if you brought anyone with you, if there's so much as one guard in this building, I'm gone. Understand? I'm alone." He walked in. The room was sparse, clean, temporary. A single bag sat by the bed, half-packed like she was ready to run at any moment. The window had a clear view of the fire escape. Another exit. Another way out. "You're still running," he said. "I never stopped." Amara sat on the bed, her hand moving instinctively to her belly. Protective. Always protective. Min-jae wanted to ask the question that had been tearing through him since the lobby. But looking at her now, guarded, exhausted, fierce, he realized he already knew the answer. "Is it mine?" he asked anyway. "Does it matter?" "Yes." "Why? So you can claim it, control it, turn it into another weapon. So I can protect it." Amara's laugh was bitter. "You couldn't even protect me, Min-jae, because you didn't let me. You disappeared without a word. I woke up and you were gone. No note. No explanation. Nothing. I left because your men were discussing how to make me disappear." Her voice cracked, raw emotion breaking through the control. "I overheard them, Min-jae, talking about contingency plans, about liabilities, about how easy it would be to eliminate a problem." His blood ran cold. "What? 2 of your guys? I don't even remember their names. I was at your apartment, waiting for you to come home, and they were in the hallway talking. They didn't know I was there, and they were discussing me like I was already dead." Min-jae's jaw tightened. "I would never. You would never tell them to. But that's not the same thing, is it? You created a world where people around you make those decisions, where loving you is a death sentence." Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. Min-jae stood there, processing the truth he'd been too blind to see. She was right. He'd built an empire on fear and control, and the people around him had learned to eliminate threats before they became problems. "I would have stopped them," he said finally. "Maybe, but by then it would have been too late. And when I found out I was pregnant," she shook her head, "I couldn't take that risk. Not with a child. So it is mine." Amara met his eyes. "It doesn't matter whose it is. This child will never be part of your world. You don't get to decide that." "Actually, I do." She stood up, her voice steel. "I'm the one carrying it. I'm the one who's been protecting it for 7 months. I'm the one who left everything behind to keep it safe. So yes, Min-jae, I absolutely get to decide." Before he could respond, the window shattered. Glass exploded inward. Min-jae moved on instinct, lunging toward Amara, pulling her down as bullets ripped through the air where her head had been seconds earlier. They hit the floor hard, his body covering hers, his mind already calculating angles, trajectories, exit routes. "Stay down," he growled. More shots. The lamp exploded. The mirror shattered. Someone was shooting from the building across the street, targeting the room with professional precision. Min-jae pulled his gun, he always had a gun, and fired back, not aiming to hit but to force the shooter to take cover. It worked. The shots stopped for a moment. Just a moment. "We need to move," he said, already pulling Amara toward the bathroom. Concrete walls. Better cover. They made it just as another burst of gunfire tore through the room. Min-jae kicked the door shut, wedged it with the trash can, then turned to Amara. Are you hurt? She was breathing hard, her hands clutching her belly, her eyes wide with adrenaline and terror.
No.
But the baby. The baby's fine. You're fine. I won't let anything happen to either of you. You said you came alone, she hissed. I did. He pulled out his phone, sent a rapid-fire text. Those aren't my people. Then who? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. His phone buzzed. Response from his second-in-command.
Astérisque en route.
3 minutes. Asterisk. Min-jae looked at Amara, really looked at her, and something inside him shifted. This woman, this strong, terrified, fierce woman was carrying his child, his only heir, and someone was trying to kill them both. When we get out of here, he said quietly, you're coming with me.
No arguments.
No running. Not until we figure out who did this and why. Amara stared at him. I don't trust you. I know. But right now, I'm the only thing standing between you and whoever just tried to put a bullet in your head. So you're going to have to trust me anyway. She wanted to argue. He could see it in her eyes. But she was smart enough to know he was right. Fine, she said. But the second this is over, we'll talk. About everything. He met her eyes, including the baby. Amara swallowed hard, then nodded. Outside, the screech of tires announced his team's arrival. Min-jae checked his weapon, took a breath, then kicked open the bathroom door. Stay behind me. Move when I move. Don't stop for anything. They ran. The DNA results arrived 3 days later. Min-jae had taken a sample during the chaos of the shooting. A strand of hair from the brush in Amara's hotel bathroom, collected while his team secured the perimeter. Not romantic, not noble, but necessary. The envelope sat on his desk for 10 minutes before he opened it. Plain manila, unremarkable, containing information that would change everything. He pulled out the single sheet of paper, scanned the technical language, the percentages, the scientific certainty. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Min-jae set the paper down carefully, didn't crumple it, didn't throw it, just set it down and stared at it like it might change if he looked long enough. The child was his blood, his legacy, his only heir. He thought about his father. The old man had been obsessed with bloodline, with lineage, with the idea that power meant nothing if it couldn't be passed down. He'd beaten that lesson into Min-jae from childhood. Asterisk, blood is everything. Blood is power. Blood is immortality. Asterisk. Min-jae had always dismissed it as the ravings of a dying man desperate for meaning. But now, staring at scientific proof of his own bloodline continuing, he understood. This wasn't just a child. This was everything. The door to his office opened without a knock. Only one person had that privilege. Yura walked in, elegant as always, carrying 2 glasses of whiskey. She set one on his desk, kept the other for herself. You've been in here for hours, she said. I'm starting to think you're avoiding me. Min-jae didn't touch the whiskey. We need to talk. Oh. She sat in the chair across from him, crossing her legs with practiced grace. This sounds serious. The woman from the hotel, Amara. She's pregnant. I noticed. The child is mine. Yura's smile didn't falter. Not even a flicker. Are you sure? DNA confirmed it. I see. She sipped her whiskey, her expression thoughtful. And what do you plan to do about it? Protect them. Both of them. That's noble. Her tone was carefully neutral. But complicated. Complicated how? Yura leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping. Min-jae, we're engaged. The families have already signed agreements. The alliances are in place. If you acknowledge this child publicly, it threatens everything we've built. The child is my heir. So have an heir with me, after we're married. One that doesn't come with complications. Min-jae's jaw tightened. This child exists now. Not in some theoretical future. Now. And the mother? This Amara? What role does she play in your grand plan? She's the mother of my child. And I'm your fiancé, your future. Or have you forgotten that? The temperature in the room dropped. Yura's mask was slipping, just barely, just enough to show the steel beneath. Let me be very clear, Min-jae. If you choose her over me, you're choosing to destroy everything. The alliances will fracture. The families will revolt. Your enemies will see weakness and they will attack. Is that what you want? I'm not choosing her over you. I'm choosing my child. Same thing. She stood, her movements sharp. You can't have both, Min-jae. You can't have your perfect heir and your perfect empire. You're going to have to decide what matters more. That's not a choice I'm willing to make. Then you're a fool. She drained her whiskey, set the glass down with a sharp clink. I've been loyal to you, Min-jae. Loyal when others weren't. But loyalty has limits. And if you cross them, she smiled, cold and beautiful. Well, let's hope it doesn't come to that. She walked out, leaving the door open behind her. Min-jae sat in the silence, feeling the weight of the choice settling on his shoulders like concrete. His phone buzzed. A text from the safe house where he'd moved Amara after the shooting. Just 2 words. She's leaving. Min-jae was out of his chair before he realized he was moving. Min-jae made it to the safe house in 15 minutes, breaking every traffic law in existence. His driver knew better than to ask questions. By the time they pulled up to the nondescript building in the industrial district, Amara was already outside, a single bag over her shoulder, hand raised for a taxi. Amara! He got out of the car before it fully stopped. What are you doing? She turned, her expression hard. What does it look like? I'm leaving. We had a deal. You stay until we figure out who tried to kill you. I figured it out. She lowered her hand as the taxi drove past. It's your world, Min-jae. Your enemies. Your chaos. And I'm not raising my child in the middle of it. Our child. He moved closer. The DNA confirmed it. You can't run from that. I'm not running from biology. I'm running from you. The words hit harder than a bullet. Min-jae stopped, processing the rejection, the fear beneath her anger. Amara, don't. She held up a hand. Don't try to fix this with promises you can't keep. You live in blood and bullets. I get that, but I won't raise a child in that. I can't. Then what do you want? Safety. Real safety. Not guards and guns and safe houses. I want a normal life where my child doesn't have to look over their shoulder every day. Where they can go to school without bodyguards. Where they can just exist. I can give you that, Min-jae said immediately. No, you can't. As long as you're in the picture, there's no such thing as normal. There's no such thing as safe. So what are you saying? That I should just walk away? Pretend the child doesn't exist. Amara's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. I'm saying you need to make a choice. Because I already made mine. What choice? Either you step away from your world, completely, permanently, or I disappear again. And this time, you won't find me. Min-jae felt like the ground had opened beneath him. You're asking me to give up everything. I'm asking you to choose what matters more. Your empire or your child. She picked up her bag. You have 1 week to decide. After that, I'm gone. Amara, wait. 1 week, Min-jae. She walked past him, got into a car that had been waiting around the corner. Not a taxi. Someone else's car. Someone helping her escape. Min-jae watched the car disappear, his mind racing through possibilities, strategies, ways to fix this. But for once in his life, he had no plan, no solution, no way to control the outcome. His phone rang. Yura. He let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again, and again. He finally answered. We have a problem, Yura said without preamble. What kind of problem? The families heard about the child. Someone leaked the information. Her voice was cold, businesslike. They're demanding a meeting. Tonight. Min-jae closed his eyes. Of course, in his world, secrets never stayed secret. Who leaked it? Does it matter? The damage is done. Now you need to manage it. What do they want? clarity, commitment, proof that you're not going to throw away everything for some woman from your past. She paused. They want you to make a public statement, renouncing the child. Absolutely not. Then prepare for war, because that's what's coming. She hung up. Min-jae stood there in the empty street, caught between two impossible choices. His empire or his child. Power or family. The throne or the future. For the first time in his life, Kang Min-jae didn't know which way to turn. The family meeting happened in an old warehouse, the kind of place where decisions were made with blood and silence. 20 men sat around a long table, each one representing a different faction, a different source of power. They all answered to Min-jae, technically, but tonight they looked like judges. Min-jae walked in alone, no guards, no backup. A show of strength, or maybe arrogance. The line was thin. "Gentlemen," he said, sitting at the head of the table, "I understand there are concerns." Park Jin-ho, the eldest of the group, spoke first. His voice was gravelly, weighted with decades of violence. "Concerns? That's a polite word for it. You have a bastard child with some woman no one knows. You're engaged to Seo Yura, whose family controls half the ports on the eastern seaboard. And now you're jeopardizing all of that for what? Nostalgia? The child is my heir," Min-jae said calmly. "That's not negotiable." "Everything is negotiable," another man said. Hwang Tae-sik, younger, ambitious, always looking for an opening, especially when it threatens the alliances we've built. Yura's family is ready to walk. Do you understand what that means? It means they value pride over profit. Not my problem. It becomes your problem when half the organization fractures. Hwang slammed his hand on the table. We've spent years building this network, years securing our position, and you're willing to burn it all for a child you didn't even know existed 6 months ago. Min-jae leaned back, his expression unreadable. That child is my blood, my legacy. In this world, that matters more than any alliance. Blood doesn't stop bullets, Park said quietly. Loyalty does. And right now, you're testing everyone's loyalty. The room fell silent. Min-jae could feel the shift in the air, the subtle realignment of power. These men had followed him because he was ruthless, strategic, unshakable. But now they were seeing cracks, weakness, humanity. Here's what's going to happen, Min-jae said, his voice cutting through the tension. I'm going to acknowledge my child publicly. I'm going to ensure they're protected. And I'm going to continue running this organization exactly as I have been. If anyone has a problem with that, the door is open. No one moved, but no one agreed either. Meeting adjourned, Min-jae said, standing. He walked out without waiting for a response. Behind him, he could hear the whispers starting, the murmurs of dissent. He ignored them, for now. When he got back to the penthouse, Yura was waiting. She was sitting on the couch, a glass of wine in hand, looking perfectly composed, like she hadn't just orchestrated a rebellion. How was the meeting? She asked sweetly. You know exactly how it was. You probably planned every word they said. Her smile didn't waver. I simply informed the families about the situation. They drew their own conclusions. You're trying to force my hand. I'm trying to save you from yourself. She set down her wine, stood. Min-jae, I understand that you feel some obligation to this child. I do. But you need to think strategically. The organization comes first. It always has. Not anymore. Yura's expression hardened. Then you're a bigger fool than I thought. Maybe. But at least I'll be a fool with a soul. She walked toward the door, then paused. One last warning, Min-jae. If you continue down this path, there will be consequences. For you, for that woman, for the child. Are you willing to accept that? Get out, he said quietly. Yura smiled. As you wish. She left, the door closing softly behind her. Min-jae stood alone in the penthouse, feeling the walls closing in. Yura's threat wasn't empty. She had resources, connections, ways to hurt him that didn't involve direct confrontation. And if she decided Amara was the problem, he pulled out his phone, called the security team watching Amara's location. It rang, and went to voicemail. Min Jae's blood went cold. Min Jae reached the safe house in record time, his driver barely keeping the car on the road. When they pulled up, the lights were on but no one answered the door. He kicked it in. The security team was unconscious, drugged probably, collapsed in the hallway. Amara's room was empty, the bed still made. No signs of struggle, just absence. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. St. Mary's Hospital, a voice said, clipped and professional. Emergency room. A woman was brought in. 7 months pregnant. Black, mid-20s. No ID. She's asking for someone named Min Jae. The world tilted. What happened? Collapsed on the street. Symptoms of poisoning. We're working to stabilize her now. Min Jae didn't remember getting back in the car. Didn't remember the drive to the hospital. One moment he was standing in the safe house. The next he was bursting through the ER doors, demanding to see Amara Cole. They led him to a private room. Amara was on the bed, tubes and wires connecting her to machines that beeped with mechanical precision. Her eyes were closed. Her hand rested protectively over her belly even in unconsciousness. A doctor approached. Are you family? I'm the father, Min Jae said, the words coming out raw. The father of her child. What happened? She was poisoned. Something slow-acting, designed to induce miscarriage without leaving obvious traces. We caught it in time to save the baby, but the doctor hesitated. The next 24 hours are critical. For both of them. Min Jae felt something inside him break. He walked to Amara's bedside, took her hand. It was warm, alive, but so fragile. Leave us, he told the doctor. The man hesitated, then nodded and left. Min Jae sat beside the bed, holding Amara's hand, staring at the monitor that tracked her heartbeat. Each beep was a promise. Each pause was a threat. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have protected you better. I should have seen this coming. He pressed his forehead to her hand. Don't leave, please. I can't. His voice broke. I can't do this without you. The machines beeped steadily. Amara didn't respond. Hours passed. Min Jae didn't move, didn't eat, didn't sleep. He just sat there holding her hand, keeping vigil. His phone buzzed constantly. Messages from the organization, from Yura, from people demanding his attention. He ignored all of them. At 3 a.m., Amara's eyes fluttered open. She blinked, disoriented, then saw him. Min Jae, I'm here. He squeezed her hand gently. You're safe. The baby's safe. Tears slid down her face. Someone poisoned me. I know. And I'm going to find out who. I already know who. Her voice was weak but certain. Your fiancé. Min Jae's jaw tightened. You're sure? Who else would benefit from my child dying? Amara closed her eyes. She warned me. This morning. Came to the safe house. Told me that if I didn't disappear, there would be consequences. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought I could handle it. Thought I could just leave quietly. But she poisoned the food they brought me. I didn't even realize until I was already outside, trying to get away. She opened her eyes again, meeting his gaze. She's going to kill me, Min Jae, and our baby, unless you stop her. Min Jae stood, something cold and final settling over him. Stay here. Don't leave this room. I'll have guards posted. Real ones this time. No one gets in except medical staff. What are you going to do? He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw the ruthless Mafia boss beneath the man who'd held her hand. What I should have done from the beginning. End this. Min Jae found Yura at her family's estate, surrounded by luxury and lies. She was in the garden, tending to roses, looking like innocence itself. When she saw him approach, she smiled. Min Jae, what a pleasant surprise. Drop the act, he said, his voice ice. I know what you did. Her smile didn't falter. I've done many things. You'll have to be more specific. You poisoned Amara. Did I? She set down her pruning shears. That's a serious accusation. She almost died. The baby almost died. Almost is such a tragic word. Isn't it? Yura walked closer, her voice dropping. But not nearly as tragic as did. Which is what will happen if you don't make the right choice. Min-jae's hand moved to his gun. Instinct. Years of violence coded into muscle memory. You're threatening my child. I'm protecting my future. She didn't even glance at the weapon. That child is a threat to everything we've built. You know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. So yes, Min-jae, I'll do whatever it takes to ensure that threat is eliminated. Even if it means murder? We've both done worse for less. She tilted her head. Don't pretend you have morals now. It's unbecoming. Min-jae felt the weight of his choices pressing down like concrete. In his world, there were rules. You didn't touch family. You didn't harm children. And you definitely didn't poison pregnant women. Yura had crossed every line. You're right about one thing, he said quietly. We've both done worse. But that ends now. Oh, Yura's smile widened. Are you going to kill me, Min-jae? In my family's garden? With witnesses everywhere. She gestured to the estate around them. Think about what that would mean. The war it would start. The alliances it would destroy. I'm aware. Then you know you can't touch me. Not without losing everything. Min-jae holstered his gun. You're right. I can't kill you. But I can do something worse. Her smile faltered. What? I can tell the truth. He pulled out his phone, held it up. Every conversation we've had. Every threat. Every admission. I've been recording everything since the hospital. Yura's face went white. You're bluffing. Am I? He tapped the screen. His voice played back, clear and damning. Asterisk, I know what you did. You poisoned Amara. Asterisk, then her voice equally clear. Asterisk, that child is a threat to everything we've built. I'll do whatever it takes to ensure that threat is eliminated. Asterisk. The color drained from her face. If you release that, your family will disown you. The organization will hunt you. And you'll have nothing. He leaned closer. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to disappear. Quietly. No drama. No revenge. You're going to walk away from this engagement. From this city. From me. And you're never going to come near Amara or my child again. And if I refuse, then I press send. He held up the phone. And you become the most wanted woman in the underworld. Your choice. Yura stared at him, calculating, weighing options. Finally, she smiled, cold and bitter. You always were smarter than you looked. Is that a yes? It's an agreement. For now. She turned away. But don't think this is over, Min-jae. Someday, somehow you'll pay for this. I already am, he said quietly. He walked away, leaving her standing in the garden, surrounded by roses and ruin. When he got back to the hospital, Amara was awake, sitting up, one hand on her belly. She looked exhausted but alive, so beautifully alive. Is it done? She asked. It's done. He sat beside her, took her hand. She's gone. She won't bother us again. Amara studied his face. You didn't kill her. No. Why not? Because I'm trying to be a different kind of man. The kind that doesn't solve every problem with violence. The kind that... He hesitated. The kind that could be a father. Tears filled her eyes. Min-jae. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I've made mistakes. But if you'll let me, I want to be there. For the baby. For you. Not as the boss. Not as the man I've been. But as... someone better. Amara was quiet for a long time. Then she squeezed his hand. One condition. Anything. You walk away from it all. The organization. The power. Everything. Because I meant what I said. I won't raise our child in that world. Min-jae took a breath. This was the choice. The real choice. Everything he'd built. Everything he'd fought for. everything he'd become, against the possibility of something he'd never had. Family. Okay, he said. Okay, I'll walk away. For you. For our child. He met her eyes. For the chance to be the man you thought I could be. Amara started crying then. Really crying, and Min-jae held her while she did. And for the first time in his life he felt like maybe, just maybe, he'd made the right choice. 3 months later, Min-jae held his daughter for the first time in a quiet hospital room with soft lighting and no guards outside the door. She was tiny, perfect, wrapped in a pink blanket that Amara had picked out weeks ago. She has your eyes, Amara said, exhausted but smiling. She has your strength, Min-jae whispered. He couldn't stop staring at the small face, the delicate fingers, the way she gripped his thumb like she was holding onto the world. Walking away from the organization had been chaos. There were negotiations, power struggles, alliances that crumbled and reformed. But Min-jae had been strategic about it, ensuring that his departure didn't create a vacuum that would lead to war. He'd appointed successors, transferred assets, made deals, and then he'd disappeared. Not the way Amara had, not out of fear but out of choice. They'd moved to a small town upstate, the kind of place where no one knew his name or cared about his past. Amara had laughed when she saw the house he'd bought. It has a white picket fence, she'd said. Too much. It's perfect. And somehow, impossibly, it was. Min-jae learned to cook. Badly at first, but Amara was patient. He learned to sleep without a gun under his pillow. That took longer. He learned what it meant to wake up to silence instead of violence, to spend his days planning nurseries instead of murders. He didn't miss the power. Not the way he thought he would. Because this holding his daughter, watching Amara sleep peacefully in the hospital bed, knowing that they were safe and together and alive, this was a different kind of power. The kind that didn't come from fear or control. The kind that came from love willingly chosen. What should we name her? Amara asked, her voice soft. Min-jae looked at his daughter, at the life they'd created, at the future that stretched ahead like a promise. Hope, he said. We should name her Hope. Amara smiled. Hope Min-jae Cole. I like it. Hope, Min-jae repeated, testing the word. Felt right. Felt like truth. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He almost ignored it, then saw the preview. Asterisk congratulations on the birth. She's beautiful. Y asterisco. Min-jae deleted it without responding. Yura was gone, living somewhere in Europe, still dangerous but no longer his problem. He'd kept the recording as insurance. A reminder that some threats never fully disappear. But for now, she was keeping her word. Everything okay? Amara asked. Everything's perfect, Min-jae said, and meant it. He set his phone aside, turned it off completely. Whatever was out there could wait. This moment, this perfect, fragile, beautiful moment was all that mattered. Little Hope yawned, her tiny face scrunching up in the way babies do. And Min-jae felt his heart crack open in a way he didn't know was possible. Love, he realized, was terrifying, because it gave someone the power to destroy you completely. But it was also the only thing that made you feel truly alive. Thank you, he whispered to Amara. For what? For giving me a second chance. For believing I could be more than what I was. For this, he gestured to the sleeping baby in his arms. For everything. Amara reached over, took his hand. We saved each other, Min-jae. That's how love works. And in that quiet hospital room, with his daughter sleeping peacefully and the woman he loved beside him, Kang Min-jae, former Mafia boss, feared killer, ruthless strategist, finally understood what it meant to be powerful. Not because he could destroy lives, but because he'd chosen to build one. The future was uncertain. There would be challenges, dangers, moments when his past would come calling. But for now, in this moment, he had everything he needed. He had hope, and he would never let her go.